I'm in a good mood, so now feels like a good time to talk about death. Let's talk about death. Let's talk about death, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good. Yeah, I don't have a song for that. So I normally try to avoid words that I judge as negative or that I feel are not appropriate to a particular situation. If I feel like a word is can be said a different way, if I can rephrase something to make it more affirmative, I'll do that. So death is not a word that I tend to use because I feel like there's no such thing as death. It's an illusion. I'll look for something better to explain it. But it's a word that kind of gets to the point of what we mean. We mean that something appeared to be one way, and then because it changed to something else, it ceased to be the original way or whatever it is. So it's also, very galvanizing and provocative word. Um, so death is a word. Death is a word that I tend to avoid using, and I think it's because I've judged it as being negative or maybe even inappropriate. Maybe there's no such thing as death because energy is neither created nor destroyed. So nothing actually dies, no one dies. So maybe it's a misnomer. It also is charged with fear. It's something that we tend to be avoidant about. It's a subject that we don't really like to talk about. So death is just so loaded. So I guess I first let me acknowledge that death is an illusion. No one actually dies. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed. And yet we still have this fear and avoidance when it comes to what we call death. That does not negate people who are suspiciously walking around here, uh, who seem to be maintaining the same form, like Pharrell Williams and Angela Bassett. Yeah, they not slick. But aside from those people, it seems that that's part of our reality. It's like the reality that we've agreed on is woven with the fabric of life and death. It's how we evolve, how we deal with transitioning, how we deal with the full spectrum of life from birth to death. It's That's where our evolution is. Again, unless you're a vampire, in which case I guess it's something else. As a child, the idea of death was a great source of anxiety for me. I felt like there was a strong association between words and power, which also made words dangerous. So I felt like if I said something about cross my heart and hope to die, which I never said, but if I ever dared to say that, I would put that in motion or maybe even cause it to happen instantly. I felt like I could make a mistake by saying or doing the wrong thing. And just like that, death is just waiting, like, yeah, she said it finally. So it was hard for me to go to sleep. It was hard for me to stay asleep. As a 9-year-old, I came across the concept of just the idea of there being another way to think about death, like as a continuum of life. And I said, well, I want to be the kind of person who thinks of death the way that the Africans do. That's the way that I thought of it. Like the Africans, I knew about the process, the burial process that was done in ancient Kemet, where there was a connection between life and death, and there wasn't the finality that I was taught. or that I just picked up on in Western culture. So I said, I wanna think of death the way the Africans do. And I never really thought about it again after that until I went through a series of events as an adult, as a mother, as a human person that kind of brought me back to that moment like, oh, you said that you wanted to understand death the way that the Africans did. And the way that things unfolded for me, I've had to, and have been kind of pushed into a different kind of consciousness when it comes to the full spectrum and the evolution of what it is to be human. I had a little baby come to visit me, and I thought that she was going to stay with me and be my daughter, like my physical daughter who I would raise. But instead, um, due to apparent circumstances like in medical and environmental racism and the messed upness of the industrial birthing complex, that wasn't to be. So I went into preterm. I went into preterm labor at 23 weeks, 6 days, just under the cutoff point for when they actually consider a child to be viable if the child is born preterm. So they let me know that as I was in labor, that they weren't going to do anything. They weren't going to hook her up to a respirator. Uh, they weren't going to do anything. So uh, once she was disconnected from me, they cut the umbilical cord, which had blood that could have circulated back into her body. They even took the time to